9:59, just a 6 o'clock day. Work session for the Historic Preservation Commission. All right. Do we need to do Pledge of Allegiance or just at our regular meeting?
We can save that for the regular meeting.
We'll save that for regular meeting. So we can jump right into the agenda since it's a work session?
Yeah, you sure can.
All right, I just want to go over real quickly over the work session topics, but first I want to welcome Laura, since this is the first time we've had a chance to get Laura Erickson.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. Former commissioner, very involved in the commission before, and we've got her back in the fold, so we're happy to have you tonight.
Thank
Thank you very much. I also want to thank Chris and Ms. Saylor for helping us, for not only taking notes on these meetings and stuff, but for keeping us on track. And thank you for helping us get this agenda together. With fruition of what you did a while back, Sue, with having a little bit of a grid, so we know what we're doing from one meeting to the next, and then that made it easy to do the agenda. But just so everybody knows, there was a pre-agenda meeting to this meeting, so we actually spent some time vetting these subjects for tonight. Going over real quickly what we hope to get accomplished in this work session. Number one, to discuss and approve a plan for the National Historic Preservation Month, which is right now. Discussing Founders Day activities and what we would like to do then. Discussing potential CLG government grant. It's not date unknown anymore. I know what's going on with that. Reviewing HP award nominations, which you'll have before you in the packet. A discussion of supporting the Hoban Park and the flowers from the commission that we've done in the past. Providing a written report to council, which will be really a report of the things that we work on tonight, what we've been working on. And then a general overview of the historic overlay guidelines and purpose documents. And then last, just a general discussion of the 2017 historic plan update. We're not going to actually work on that tonight, but just to talk about what we need to do with that, with the plan. So does that sound good? Does anyone want to add anything, subtract anything from the agenda? All right. Then let's talk about the National Historic Preservation Month. Today is May 11th. I think that really the biggest thing that we have to do really is to look at the historic preservation forms that were submitted all the way up to March 31st. And then I'm not aware of any other activities that are going on in the month other than you'll report later on our Facebook page, where you can also report on that now, what we've got ongoing, which is an ongoing project, right?
Well, I have it listed like in the Facebook post going out this month. It's National Historic Preservation Month, and if there's posts that are related to that. So that is in the May Facebook post.
Okay, thank you. Is the city doing anything specific as well around it being Historic Preservation Month at all? Are there any activities or anything on the website besides what what Commissioner Benoit is doing?
I haven't heard of any.
That?
I was just going to say, I think usually we do a proclamation. Has that been done? I thought
that's totally
we
true.
Talked about that. And then the other thing is, again, this sort of planning so that we get agendas done, since we're only meeting 4 times a year. We just need to make sure that our plans for National Historic Preservation Month get moved to January, to our meeting. It kind of got lost in our reorganization and shuffle. So just a note that I think next year we'll be more on top of this in terms of having something done before May. But I do know we have a proclamation or something. I think, can you speak to that?
Yeah, so originally this meeting was supposed to be in April, which is why we had it on the agenda for April.
Okay.
So that's why, but we can always put it to January so we get more time to focus on.
Yeah, April works. I just,
Yes.
it is kind of mid-May now.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, we can definitely add it to January. That way we've got more than enough time.
One other quick piece of business, because we're off a little bit on not having had a meeting in April and so on, I don't even know if everyone's introduced themselves to Commissioner Erickson. So we should probably do that. That would be nice. Starting all the way to my left. I think you meant.
Okay, so my name is Chris, and I'm the Deputy City Clerk.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you. Laura Erickson, I was Commissioner before 2014 through 2017, so which is discussed about the update. Love the commission and love this town. You probably already read what I had in the notes for the city council, so
Sue Ward. I live up the street from you.
Yes, we're neighbors.
And we have previously met, so.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tanya LeBrecq, Chair. We've met over the years, known each other for a few years, and I had heard, actually, before I even joined the commission, I'd heard you talking about the commission as well, too, so
Right.
probably influenced me in some way.
Mary Ann Benoit, we also met before previously, and so happy to have you on the commission again.
Laura, I'm Art Lee Master, and this is my, I guess, second tour as HP Commissioner.
Thank you for your service. And Ms. Donna Walker will join us at a future meeting, but she's another commission. Ms. Saylor,
And Bailey Saylor, Library and Museum Director.
she's the
Very
director.
nice to meet you.
All right.
I just wanted to follow up, kind of close the loop on the the activities for Historic Preservation Month. Even if we're not doing anything other than our social media stuff, is Resurrection Bay Historical Society do something we could help promote what they're doing, like on social media, and get the word out? Or I'm not sure if there's any, if they need help participating.
I don't think there's anything formal that the Resurrection Bay Historic Society is doing for Preservation Month. They usually focus on Founder's Day, the Founder's Day activities. So at this point, I know that Resurrection Bay is getting organized for summers at the museum there, because they keep the museum open on Sundays. And so I know that's what they're focusing on, but I don't know that there's anything. I think we mostly just put out a proclamation. We haven't had any big activities other than awards. But that's something, if we have a little bit more planning time, we can do more, but it's generally social media, awards, and proclamation via city council.
Okay.
And we have our wonderful walking tour, so it would be a really good time. I know you're already doing promotion, but to really just splash and say, May is Historic Preservation Month, and dedicate yourself to taking a walk.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of a cool thing.
And I was going to say, just so for the public, is that we had 2 commissioners out of country in April, which is, we didn't have a quorum. We were one short of a quorum, which is why this meeting is so late. So, and I'm guilty, one of the people that was out of the country, so.
No problem. So what I was going to say is that, when coming back on board and looking at the social media, I was very happy with the YouTube video and stuff. I would love to see us boost that maybe during the month of May.
That's a good idea. Yeah, we could we have some city dollars, Deputy Clerk Peck, we have some city dollars that are allotted to us for this commission, and some of that we've used in the past for doing social media boosts. So in other words, we can put $20, $50 or whatever towards it, and that'll get
Right.
more traffic. Is that something that you can verify what our budget might be? Or Director Saylor, I'm not sure
Yeah, I
who would
could
tell
look
us
into
that.
that. I'm not sure off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Who would have the information? I know there's a budget
I would.
line item.
In my office.
Okay.
I know it's over 1,000, but yeah, you would have, to boost a Facebook post, you're looking at $10 to $15 per post.
So,
Right.
Yeah, I actually have that post with the video on, coming out on June 1st, which is already into June, but I could make another post with this and do, like you said, hey, it's Historic Preservation Month, get out and walk, do the tour, blah, 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 and we could boost that. So if it comes up twice, that's fine,
It's not
because people often miss, they're not gonna see everything we put, so if you want to do that, I can.
do we need authorization to spend money that's been allotted to us? That's a question. So if there's $1,000 or whatever, if we want to spend $50, do we need authorization?
Yeah, I think there's a line about committing to spend city funds, you need approval from council or something like that.
Would you mind checking on that and getting back to us? That would be very helpful.
Yeah.
Second thing is this proclamation that we're talking about, which I completely spaced. Again, it's weird because we were so used to having meetings like every month last year that, you got to think about the in-between now. So this proclamation, there should already be an existing proclamation that we can grab from last year and just change the dates, and we can take action on that at this upcoming meeting that's happening here in 45 minutes or whatever, and then actually have a proclamation. Is that something we can grab in the break? We'll finish a little early, and maybe you can grab a copy of that proclamation, unless there's a copy somewhere in the packet.
Is this the
No, 'cause
proclamation for Seward's Day?
That's
No.
No,
National
Historic
Historic
Preservation.
Preservation
I'm pretty
Month.
sure there's one from last year. And that the mayor would assign. And if not.
Yeah, 'cause she sent it.
Yeah, because we would have to actually look at it tonight, so I'd feel better finishing 15 minutes early and maybe just, if you had time to see if that's something we can locate
I think I
and
sent,
or act on.
I think I sent Founder's Day, but not the May one.
Yeah, we can try to get it into the next council meeting.
Right, but we'd have to discuss it in the next meeting and say that we agree to what it is and then propose a proclamation because we won't have another meeting before then.
And
Yeah, I'm happy for
which,
the council.
which topic would this fall under?
This would fall under.
Discuss and approve a plan for National Historic Preservation Month.
Right, so we're proposing that we put out a proclamation, or we grab an existing proclamation and just quickly modify it in the actual, we can talk about that in the meeting, is that
I mean,
correct?
on the actual meeting agenda, where would this fall under?
That would fall under the, we would add it as an item to the approval agenda and consent agenda, and somebody would say, would we? Just-
You can't add items at this point in time.
Okay.
You could talk about it during your comments at the end of the meeting, but we
Why-
can't add
could it-
things to an agenda that's already been published.
Can you do it under new business items, number 2, carry out planned National HP Month activities? Because that's what we're discussing, National Historic Preservation.
But you're talking about the regular meeting, right?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm, it's a number 2,
yeah.
So that would be a National
Yep,
HP
that's what we're
Month
talking
activity.
about.
yeah.
And the idea is to get a proclamation at the
Correct.
next council meeting.
The idea is to come up with a proclamation tonight and the wording, which we can even do on the fly. All vote on it, agree to it, and ask that it be proposed to city council to next meeting.
And I think there's probably one already written. I bet you I could go home and pull it out of my files if I have 15 minutes.
I can go upstairs and
Yeah,
get
and see it.
during our break, or, if there's a recess or a break between the work session and.
Sounds good. Commissioner Erickson?
I was just gonna say that, I mean, you guys have, on the 22nd, you have a special meeting just with the
That's
city
true.
council. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So is that something, I don't know that I didn't see a published agenda for that
That's a-
conversation.
That's for
That's a
a
joint work
report.
session?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
a work
okay.
session. It's got a specific agenda.
Okay. I missed
That's
that then. I
being
was just
set by,
curious.
no,
Yeah.
that's being set by.
That's a
city
good idea,
council.
though. So yes, if we can grab that, that would be important. So,
I think, yeah, there should be one already written. I think it would be a matter of just changing dates real quick.
And that's exactly
It
right.
should be pretty minimal, I would think.
so there's 3 items, and then we can move on to the next thing. One is finding the proclamation for Historic Preservation Month, which we'd like to get the mayor and/or council. I think it was signed by the mayor previously. And then the second one is someone researching, is RBHS doing anything that we can tag on to?
I'd be happy to
Check
do
it.
that, but they won't have a meeting until end of this month, so I was out of the country, so I missed the last meeting. Art, were you at the last meeting? Is there
Yeah,
anything they're
and-
doing?
We discussed Founder's Day.
That's in
but-
August,
yeah,
right.
which- yeah, August 28th, Monday, but.
So I don't think they're doing anything specific for National Historic Preservation. I think that's kind of down to us.
Yeah,
You just sent out a newsletter, and I don't recall seeing it.
Right. They focus more on Founder's Day.
Yeah.
I think we get points just for asking and saying maybe we want to partner, so if you
Right.
could reach out, that'd be great.
I'd be happy to do that.
Thank you. Which leads right into discussing Founder's Day activities, and Commissioner Ward or Vice Chair Ward, if you could talk about that. We spoke about that a little bit in the previous meeting about Founder's Day and what your perception was, I think, of what they do during Founder's Day. We don't want to step on toes, but we also want to offer.
They usually do a Founder's Day celebration at the library. There's usually a cake, there's usually a presentation. I know Sue McClure plays the organ, it's a kind of a from like 2 to 4 sort of activity. And I've always had, it's something they want to do, and they really like to, it becomes difficult to try and coordinate. So in the past, we've just stood back and offered to help. I mean, I'm always happy to be a volunteer, but I think that that's something that they would prefer to do on their own. But we can always volunteer.
And we have volunteers.
We
but
have.
At the same time, we're all members of that too, so it's kind of like we're volunteering.
But we don't, it's their celebration, it's their I think in the past, there were some planning difficulties and coordination issues, so it's something that they've been very clear that they want to organize. It's their celebration, and I'm sure they'd be happy to take volunteers, but they would prefer to leave that to them.
Would they, and I think we talked about that a little bit, so would they take it positively or negatively if we also said as part of Founder's Day that we would be willing to do walking tours?
I will be happy to ask them at the next meeting, and if they want to include that, because we're also talking about some membership stuff, and the walking tours kind of figured prominently in that. So I would be happy to bring that up at the meeting, to see if we can tag the walking tour onto Founder's Day activities, and what does the RBHS board want to do with that.
Cool.
But I'll be happy to liaison, and Art, you can back me up.
Thank you for that. So discussing potential CLG government grant. So here's what I found out today in speaking to the folks at the Historic Preservation Office. They are meeting on June 6th. There's a meeting from 9 o'clock to 1 o'clock p.m. They're going to send us the invitation. It doesn't have to be in person. It can be a virtual. We don't have to be there, but if we're interested, we can. We are CLG. We are a certified local government. They know and they're excited about what we did with the walking tour.
Who are we talking about?
Maria, it was the one who was before at SHPO, but it's not, Maria's not there anymore.
No, right.
And so I was speaking to Kathleen Tarr, who's actually the person who helps with grants. I don't know that they have filled Maria's position yet, but Kathleen called me today and she said that the meeting is on June 6th. That meeting, I'm sorry, when you asked me who, the meeting is of the Alaska Historical Commission.
Okay, so SHPO?
No, the Alaska Historical Commission, so just like we're
Historical
commission, there's an
Commission?
Alaska, State of Alaska one.
Oh, the State Commission.
So State of Alaska Historic Commission is going to get together and discuss their priorities that they see for this year, for what they would like to see for their priority for CLG grants that will be awarded. Then their application, the call for the application will come out in late June. And then the application itself would be due in late September or early October.
So we're talking for next year.
Yes, so we would have an opportunity to discuss what we want to do. And one of the things that we talked about is actually just the funding for the historic overlay guidelines document. That's what you guys did last time, is actually got a professional to help write with that, because as much as we do, and I know Art, Commissioner Master, you were going to talk at some point about that too, and in fact I'd love to hear about it, but it was helpful to have a professional, I think, that formatted everything and finished it
Yes,
off. And so, because it's a big project. So let me stop for a minute there, ask you about your experience with that, from what you remember, and then maybe talk to Commissioner Master, because you had some proposal to help with some writing, is that correct?
Yeah, I'm part of the writers group at the Senior Center, and they meet twice a month.
Okay.
But these people are very creative, I found out. You know, I see things one way, and they bring in a different and much better point of view. But my thought is that we take the sections that we have, we prepare a draft, and then I run it by that group, get their input, and then bring that draft, if you will, revised, right, into here for comment and review. So it would be slow, stepwise.
But it could start any time,
Yeah.
even in between meetings.
The thing that just concerns me was that you said we would have to give them a draft, something other than what we currently have, because that's where we get bogged down. Is what we have something they can work with, or, because that's where we got bogged down, is trying to edit that draft.
Can I just, there's one, let me bounce for 1 minute, because I think you remember going through that experience
So we did,
last time
and
too.
it was a long process. I mean,
It will be, yeah.
I am not gonna lie, and everybody had a lot of different opinions of how things were written, and then we were more concise, as it took longer, and we finally just agreed in, I would say, chapters and sections and what that looked like. And then we just kind of put the draft to where somebody could format it and walk through it. But that's the thing, we all have to walk through it together, so. And it took us a long time.
Yeah, and the only way I see of this happening is piece at a time, and then we get that per section at a time. Right.
That's where we got in trouble though. We tried a variety of things in order to do different chapters, and we still got bogged down because we're not looking at the document as a whole.
Yeah.
Part of what was happening was there was evidently redundancy later on, so if you do it in small sections, you don't catch that redundancy. So I guess I just don't want to get caught spinning my wheels again, because we've spent a year doing that.
I have one question, though. I have one question, I just want to separate the two. So, because I think it was confusing how I had us write this agenda, so I'll take that. Are we talking about the historic plan or the historic overlay?
I would say the guidelines. We're talking about just the guidelines.
So there's guidelines, and then what you were talking about was the historic plan, right?
Plan,
The overall
right,
plan.
yes.
So they're two separate.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I understand that. I haven't been talking about anything other than this guidelines.
So that's what you're talking about.
Right.
And is that what you're wanting
That's
to
what we're
revise?
talking
Is the
about.
guidelines?
Yeah, I think the guidelines are,
Okay.
that's the only thing I have in
So,
mind.
two separate documents.
Yeah, they're two separate
Okay.
documents.
Okay.
But the whole point is that I think that I'm really happy for someone to edit it, but I just don't, we need to step away. This group needs to kind of step out, because that's where we got bogged down. We tried to edit it by committee, and then we ended up spinning our wheels, and that's where we kind of got in trouble. So when you were talking, I don't mind having this group edit it, but I'd like for us to step away and have somebody with new eyes look at the whole document. Does that make sense? And I don't know if this group has the
Yeah, well,
capability
so
of doing that.
I think what you're talking about is a professional,
Yeah.
technical writer, basically.
That's where I'm thinking we need.
The issue I have with the document as it stands is the tone. It's written, thou shalt do this,
The plan or the guidelines?
the guidelines.
Okay.
I can only speak to the guidelines.
Okay.
Right
That's
there.
all we're talking about.
We're talking about number
right
7.
here.
Yeah, that's.
We're not talking, yeah.
No, we're not talking about the
Yeah,
plan.
but
But you're talking about the grant. We were talking about getting a grant to
Yeah.
do exactly what.
And I should have specified that if we got a grant, it would be, if we talked about the 3 pieces, we talked about that one time, we said the 2017 historic plan was the guide for what then would make the guidelines.
No, they're not related at all.
Okay.
I agree.
So
They're not related
No,
at
help
all.
me with that, because I didn't work on that. That's
No,
my biggest.
No, and the plan is very different.
Yeah,
And
the guidelines-
we just went with the guidelines.
The historic plan was something that talked about if you want to do, if we were going to do the downtown, that's where, where we kind of got off on a tangent with doing downtown, doing, when we were doing all of those, we went through a document, I remember they were talking about downtown, doing
Oh,
that
yeah,
whole
redoing the-
historic
yeah,
area,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
we were, that,
The district.
right,
Yes.
district.
That was a big
The
thing.
guidelines are really, were part of that, but we pulled them out, and we've talked about them just as guidelines, to publish something that has nothing to do with the historic plan, but to make it easier for owners or contractors to, if you have a historic property, what's the best way to approach dealing with a historic property?
Right, and-
So those were two separate things.
And to not make it scary because people think there's all these restrictions and that's not what we're trying to do. So I
Exactly.
would propose that maybe even the historic plan update is not a priority because it's fine, the 17, the plan itself.
Yeah,
The
we-
priority is to do the guidelines, probably, if we were to pick one thing. and not
Well, it'd be
even look at
nice
the
to
plan.
finish that, because I think if you have the guidelines and the historic plan update, because we're required to update this plan, then may flow better. But the idea, the guidelines were really just as a tool.
Right.
And I think there's we stole them from Juneau with their blessing. And so it really is something that I would like to see finalized and then published by this group and out to the citizens of Seward,
I agree.
who can use it how they choose. And, I'm happy for the tone to change. I'm happy to give it to a technical writer, and we can tell them we'd like the tone to be a little different. But I just, at this point, I'd like to be done with it. I'd like to get it done and finished.
So I'm going to propose that we not could spend time on the, yes, ma'am, but this is, let me finish once. The 2017 Historic Plan update is not a priority. That what you just mentioned, only from the purpose of saying, discussing the CLG grant, I gave the dates that maybe we look at a future meeting about looking, getting technical writers
Yeah.
to help us do the updates as part of CLG. Just, that's the only thing on CLG. We don't have to touch anything else on the guidelines tonight. Just saying that I think that the historic plan update itself is probably not a priority. It's too much to do both.
To do. And the thing of it is, what I do know, KMTA, they have publishing grants. They have grants. That's how Doug Capra gets his books published. So KMTA is also a source, because we could in fact publish under their book grant. I don't know what their deadlines are, but that, getting this finalized would be a good use of their publishing grants.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep, so we just need somebody to follow up with KMTA. Do you want me to do that?
Yes, if you could.
Okay, I've
If-
got contact there. Commissioner Bailey.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think that these guidelines are very important, and I think it's timely. It's more important for us to get these done and get them out there so people that can use them than to drag this out, which we have been doing. My opinion is that, unless I'm wrong, there's not a single person on this commission. We might all be good writers, but none of us are professional editors. And I'm guessing that none of the people in the writers group, the senior center, are professional editors also. If you want somebody to do that kind of work, you have to pay them. Let's just get a grant and do that. We can tell them,
And I
this
will
is
help
the
with the
tone
grant.
that we would like to have. We have to provide the technical information and make sure that that's accurate. And then we'll have a chance to review and come back to that later. But I just feel like we need to find somebody that can do this, pay them to do the work, and make this happen, and not drag it out. Because group editing will take us the rest of our lives, and we never get to the end. We gotta
Agreed.
forget it. Don't worry.
So here's what I propose. We said we were going to discuss a potential CLG government grant and the date. We know that June 6th, they're going to have a meeting, set their priorities. I'll put a bug in their ear about what we're talking about, and then late June, it'll come out with a start date of September. So this would be something after summer that we would tackle.
And
We're just going to look at the we're just going to look at the guidelines as our priorities, not the historic plan, because the historic plan's fine, it's just a story, basically. And we can, Commissioner Lemaster, there's no reason why just from a historic embellishment kind of, not embellishment, sorry, not the right word, but a historic narrative or something, there's no reason someone could work for a technical writer, because a technical writer is going to write very technically, and it sounds like your group would be interested in saying, here's a chapter, or here's a piece of a chapter, apologize, and we'd like your help to just look at it in bits and pieces. That would be in September, that would not be any time soon.
And plus, if we find somebody good to take care of this part, then they might be like a great person or a company to consider helping us with the
You need to go
2017
on.
plan
I'll
update.
take over.
Because then they'd be familiar, and we have somebody we're working with too.
And I apologize, you can take over for me for just a minute?
Yeah.
Okay,
Check your phone.
thank you. All right.
So, and I would happily volunteer in June to help write a grant so that we can get some KMTA money for a technical writer. I have no problem with people looking at it, but I'd like to keep as much of the information in there. We can change tone, we can do all that, but the information has been pretty well researched. I'd like to keep that in there. We just have to organize it better. And if there's repeats, we want to streamline the whole thing. So as long as everybody's okay with that, we'll try and get a grant to go ahead and get a technical writer.
Sounds great.
And does that seem okay for everybody? You okay with that, Commissioner Lemaster? Okay, all right, and I'll work with Tongi, and I can attend the meeting in June if necessary. I'll find out more about that. Because I feel like you, I'd like to get this done. It's been floating around out there. Let's get it in the hands, and then we can start looking at the historic plan, because we're also required to update that. So, but let's take one and then the other. One I think is easier, but the historic plan update needs to happen. That's something that is in our charge. Okay, have we discussed grants enough? Everybody happy with that? Okay, review HP award nominations. I believe in our packet, and this I was wondering, Marianne, would be something we'd want to advertise on a Facebook post. We have Al and Tiffany Siller have been nominated for a Historic Preservation Award.
Now, we have advertised previously about these nominations several times to get the nominations in, so I'm not sure what you mean by that.
No, but these are winners. We're gonna,
Oh, yeah.
what we're gonna do
Definitely.
tonight is we're gonna vote. We had one turned in. This is the only one to my knowledge.
Okay.
That's the only one we've had turned in. So I would like to, I'm assuming we'll need a motion and a second to award Al and Tiffany Siller the Seward Historic Preservation Award.
I motion.
Oh,
Yeah.
that'll have to take place during the regular meeting. It's the
Okay, oh,
resolution.
right, okay,
Okay.
so that's what we'll do, but that's the
So
whole
we're gonna
purpose.
bring it forward to.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. This is a work session, that's right, we can't do this regular meeting. Is there anybody else that we've missed, anybody that you know of? So that's pretty much what needs to happen there, so if you save your motion and a
Yep,
second for the
will do.
meeting,
I will.
then we'll get that done. But Al and Tiffany, so, and, would you not, who would tell them? Would we have Tongi call them, or? Because-
Isn't it supposed to be the city council supposed to?
Yeah, I don't know how that works.
Well, I noticed on here.
It's me.
Is it
Oh,
you?
it's you? Okay,
Yeah.
I noticed they had not been notified, by the person who submitted it, because that checkbox was no.
Right.
And that was Rhonda Spur who submitted this,
Okay.
so to my
So,
knowledge.
Mike, can you do that? Can you contact, and just let them know, and then, again, make sure that they're aware if they're gonna be presented with the award at city council, which is where I think they get presented. We may make sure they're there and that they know that they're getting an award.
Can you?
We've missed that in the past.
Let me know about that, because I don't want to advertise it on Facebook until they
Yes,
can notify
absolutely.
themselves, so.
And that's gonna be at the next council meeting, right?
On the 22nd.
I believe we could get that on the agenda because the deadline for materials would be Tuesday, May 16th.
Okay, so yeah, we'll vote it tonight, so you should be,
Right.
okay. Everybody happy with that?
Yes.
Support Hoban Park / the Flowers. That is something that this group has traditionally done. One person in particular, Cheryl Cease, has always planted and maintained the flowers. So we put it on the agenda because it is something that we've traditionally done. But is there anybody that wants to step forward and do that?
Has anyone asked, like Cheryl, if she'd like to continue doing it as volunteer?
Yeah, I haven't asked her.
So that might be
That's
an
the question.
Yeah.
Because if she enjoys doing it and wants to continue doing it, she would be the first choice to ask before we can.
And if she said, okay, if she says yes, we're fine. If she says no, is there a backup plan?
Not at this moment.
Okay, no, I just want to make sure it doesn't, usually, and I think there's money in the budget to buy the flowers, and probably some dirt. But if Cheryl isn't interested, and I know that, you know, Gary has been real ill, so whether she has the time or the energy to do it. I believe that she walks down there and waters it. The city doesn't maintain the urns.
I can ask her if you want.
Yeah, that would be great, and just see how, if she's interested in still doing it.
And another thing is, in the past, last year, at one point, the city had contacted me and said, hey, would you like us to take over doing that as part of the other things that they do for gardening? And we
It
had kind of had
never-
a discussion like it was gonna happen, but then I think they didn't have the money or they didn't have all the people they were expecting. So I don't know what their situation
Where
is
that
this
is.
year.
Right.
But if they can take it on as far as the rest of the flowers they
watering.
do, that would be the easiest.
Well, if they could do the ongoing maintenance, but we've got money in the budget for dirt and flowers, would we need, we won't have a meeting, would we need to vote if we needed to spend that money, or just buy it and turn in receipts?
I recall, at
How
a
do we do it
previous
last year?
meeting, Cheryl was reimbursed, I think, for the money she spent on the flowers.
Okay, so we could do a
And I-
reimbursement if somebody does, I mean, it doesn't even
I
have.
remember 2 meetings where we voted prior, and then, like, there was a limit they were allowed to spend prior, and we voted on that, well, I didn't vote, they voted on it, and then she went out and purchased to that limit, and
Okay.
then turned in those receipts.
So it's
Okay.
voted beforehand of what the budget is?
Yeah,
Okay.
Do you know what that was offhand?
it's less than $200.
So if we had a motion along the lines of up to $200, at least it would be available to whomever was gonna do it,
Right.
okay? Then we can do that during the meeting and see how that goes. So we are discussing Hoban Park,
Thank you.
and Mary Ann's gonna talk to Cheryl to see if Cheryl is willing to do it. We don't really have a Plan B, but we, in the next meeting, will support, we'll do a motion to support spending the money for the flowers and the dirt.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. What is the status of the watering? Because there's been times where we had to do it, and then I understand that then the city has done it, and I don't know what the status is of Parks and Rec, and if they have people to do watering.
Well, Mary Ann spoke to that. Want to
Um,
repeat that there, Mary Ann?
Last year, the city, and I can't remember who it was, they were talking about, hey, they were gonna hire a gardener to see if we would like to just put Hogan Park in there and let them do that. And I think what ended up happening, we were considering that, but then they didn't actually have the money or the person to do it, so it fell to us. In the past, I have talked to, for example, I did talk to Doug Schlosser about the watering situation. I brought that up before, and it never went anywhere. There were some suggestions like, oh, there might be an old water line that used to go to the fountain. Perhaps we could get that fixed up and working, or perhaps the city could pay for the water over to where Zudi's is, and just pay that bill so it could be shared. And then you could have a hose, and would make it easier.
It'd make it a lot easier.
But, and I think.
How would
maybe
we
he
go
was
about
going
that?
to- He was going to check into that, but it didn't really
Yeah.
materialize. But that seemed like that
Something-
would be a reasonable thing. But then the city would have to say, yes, we pay for the water.
Well, I know last year Maggie Wilkins was hired in July as the Parks and Rec director, so this year will be her first full
Full, so it might be
season,
worth to
and,
talk to her.
Yeah, you might want to reach out to her and see if she has any input. Yes.
I can do that because I'm talking to her, and we're working on
Sure, go.
Rotary Park, so I can ask her if there's any way we can work together to get water for an open park. Is that's the big thing. It's like, does anyone want to go out there and carry buckets of water all summer to water the flowers?
And that's what the
No.
problem is. It gets really tiring and
Tedious.
it's a lot. The other thing I wanted to bring up about Hoban Park are we had plans to put in, to replant some of the,
I remember that. The
Lilacs.
Yeah.
is that something that we want to look at, or just defer that?
We might need to defer, because the last thing that happened was I took some of the lilac shoots and tried to grow in my own yard to see if I could get something going, so we have something to plant. And I think Cheryl may have also, and I just looked at them the other day, nothing seemed to survive the winter.
This
So my
long winter.
thing, my thought is just from trying to mess with this for the last 3 years, is that we need to get shoots that are bigger, like these small ones just can't seem to have enough room to make it through winter to be planted. We
Right.
need to, but the one big one we got, we did plant and it's still alive down there as far as I know.
We were trying to
That's
get the
key.
historic, with that, the whole point
That
was to
one
try and
came
get
from Rolling
historic shoots.
House. Right.
I mean, we could buy lilacs, but they wouldn't be from the historic stock.
The big one that actually survived came from the Blaine House, so I think that's the key. Blaine House had said yes before, you can do that. Also, there's historic shoots we could get from Resurrect Art Coffee House. We just have to, I think,
We
get
need a
something
greenhouse,
big enough
yeah.
to make them.
Grow them before we put them in.
Out of curiosity, when does that fountain usually get uncovered and up and running in Hoban Park?
Golly,
That's a Parks and Rec thing
it
too.
is a park and rec thing.
I think it's gonna depend whether or not their pump's working, getting water down there to it, and staff. So those are gonna be your factors. I know there was an
Yeah.
issue with the pump last year. Just
So
have to see.
it was out of service all last summer? I don't remember.
And did you guys hire a gardener now?
Boy, off the top of my head, there was a
So-
request for proposals that went out and nobody put in a
We
bid.
have somebody who's preparing the beds for things to be planted, but they are not going to stay the entire summer.
Okay.
So
I
they are
thought
prepping them, so they'll be ready to go once they find somebody who wants to fill that position, and we'll be good to go. So,
So
That's kind of exciting.
on that one as well. Is that,
It's kind of exciting. And then we had talked about, we actually did a plant register at one point, right? So there's a plant register
There is
that
a
sits
plant
somewhere.
register.
And there may be some other things that could be transplantable. We talked about even at my own house. I have flowers that I think, roses that are very, very, very old, that I'm more than happy for you guys to dig some of those up and put them in the park. So there may be other areas as well too, so for a future meeting,
Why
well,
don't we do that this summer, is to get some of
I don't
those
think-
white roses and put them down there where the one lilac is?
you are more than happy to do that.
Yeah,
I don't
we
think
would
we need
dig
any
'em up.
official
I'm
action
around.
on that. You
I'd be
can-
happy to do that, Mary Ann.
Go
You and
for it.
I, we wield mean shovels.
Yeah.
We're good. We go out and plunder. We're
Awesome.
good.
Maybe if we can see if we can get permission to dig up some bigger lilac shoots and we can like possibly plant them like at my house or yours and see if we can get them to establish, and then we'll have them for next year.
Awesome.
You know, and I have one really big one that I didn't, it was really interesting when we took out the feral trees between my house and the neighbor house, there was a ring of rocks. And there was a bush in there, and in this ring of rocks, and I was like, I had no idea what it was, but I left it there, and it turns out it's a lilac. And it's a pretty good size one, and it's kind of in an awkward spot. So it takes something to dig it out, but I would be happy to donate that to, and it's a good, it's good, 5 feet tall. I mean, it's big.
That's great.
But it's been, I don't know when it was planted, but whoever did it has a circle of rocks. So it's been there for quite some time, and it's a good size. It was buried, it struggled when we had those feral trees there, and when we took those out, it's done really great.
We probably would need to plant that in the fall when things start to go dormant, but we would have to prepare.
Right, and so, but I'm happy to donate that.
Okay.
It's just in an awkward spot, and I want to do some landscaping at my house, and I think it's a fairly, it's been there a while.
Well, my guess is that most of these places, I feel confident that one of Blaine House, Resurrect Art are old.
Yeah, they've been
Because they're on
around.
the register. For example, yours, it's an old
No
house.
idea.
It's most likely a pretty old one, and I'm pretty sure yours are old, the roses. So in some cases, we won't have information we can prove exactly, but we can use our best estimation if this is something we're doing.
Well, next time you come over, we can walk over and take a look at it. I was shocked. I didn't know what it was. And so when we took all those feral trees out between my house and Bethany's house, I left it there and I wanted to see what it was, and it turns out it's a lilac.
One of the things that'll be important, because I tried to get a historic lilac tree from, the guy with Saltwater Safaris when he was.
Oh, Bob?
Yeah,
Bob
and so one
Kanalopoulos.
thing that's important, because we kind of worked on this before, is you have to see if the thing is healthy enough now, if you're gonna go to all this work, what its chances of survival, so we need to.
Yeah, take a look at it, yeah, and I, yeah.
Which I'm not a botanist, so I don't know.
It's done really well since we got rid of all the trees and now it's out in the open. So it had flowers on it last year, it looked really good.
Doesn't the city have a person who is kind of like a botanist? Because I
Carol
think they were the
Griswold.
person that had looked at this other one and said, well, I don't know if it'll work. A transplant, okay.
But I'm sure there's somebody that could tell us a thing or two.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure, but it looked great. We'll see.
All
Anyway,
right.
so that's just something to check.
That's exciting, so
We'll
some
talk
follow-up
to
to happen on
Cheryl.
that.
Yeah, we'll talk to Cheryl. If not, we don't have anybody to step up, but we do want to maybe think about putting more plants in the park itself, but we may not be doing the urns this year.
Right, and we could always ask Carol also, she's a
Yeah,
botanist.
Carol, she's a
And
botanist.
see if she would like to take a look at it.
Awesome.
See if she could take a look.
Vice Chair Ward, thank you for helping me run this meeting, and I'm sorry, I apologize for the phone ringing, which I forgot to turn off, and, somebody called me and said that they didn't check into their flight, which is in 2 hours, and their code wasn't working, so I apologize, but I had a little child issue. I'll outwardly
A
say that,
frantic
but
kid.
sorry about mixing,
Frantic kid.
city business here with home stuff, but yes. So at any rate, let's talk about the written report to council. So, Director Maley, do we have what we need to basically put a report together? And is that for the meeting that's upcoming here next week, right?
Yeah, usually what we do is we take the priorities, we made a priorities list back in December of what it would be for this year, and that's what we would go off of. And then we also, last year when we went before council, we took the HP guidelines, I believe, that paperwork, like all our duties that are listed in that, we had that as well, so.
Do you have what you need to put that together and then maybe further review with Vice Chair Ward and I, maybe before the meeting?
Yeah, we could,
Yep.
yeah,
Okay. And then
I'm happy to do it.
my last piece of business is we're supposed to have a quorum at that meeting. I'm going to be at the meeting.
I'll be at the
Are you
meeting.
available? Are you available on that Monday, the 22nd? Is that correct?
If you need me to come, I can.
Would love for you to come. Hey, Commissioner Master, can you join us at that meeting? So we know we're going to have a quorum, therefore we can present what we need to present.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
And Commissioner Erickson, I'd already told previously that she wasn't available, and
Sorry,
I'd already
have
let her
my
off
own
of that
board
one.
meeting.
She just came to a council meeting, so she was here. So, is there anything else anybody would like to add? I think we're going to take the 7 and 8. We've already discussed at great length the guidelines and how we would look at some help with that, but later on, and maybe making it a CLG grant into September. And then we said that the historic plan update, I don't think is a priority for us, and we really need to spend any time on at this point in time.
Just defer it.
Just defer that. Anything else, or? I think we had a good meeting. It's 6:49. We can take a little break, maybe look for that proclamation. Can I call the meeting?
Yep.
All right. Calling the Historic Preservation Commission work session to an end at 6:49 PM.